Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Town of Pownell Select Board Meeting, June 26, 2025 at 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Board member roll call.
Carl Strohmeyer,
Jeannie Alexander.
Mike Gardner.
Jamie Percy.
Brian Harris.
Everyone rise for the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Checking, that's all.
Approval of the agenda, public comment. Minutes of June 12th. Warrants, accounts payable, payroll, resolution affirming the constitutional rights, agreement with Pownell Youth Sports, Parks and Rec, V-Trans, transfer station telecommunications, Bennington County Sheriff's Department, Conservation Commission letter of interest, wage increases for employees and elected officials, special meeting scheduled for remaining employee evaluations, town attorney proposed executive session for personnel, public comment and adjournment. Any additions, deletions, corrections? I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
All those in favor for the agenda?
Aye.
Any public comment, Hannah?
Yes. Woo-hoo. Yes.
You're late.
We can hear you. Sorry. Okay,
Can you state your name, please, for us?
Julie Weber. Okay, can I start now?
Yep.
Okay, it's gonna be short and sweet. So I would like to know the status of the health officer. I haven't seen anything posted yet for a new one. And I was wondering if it was going to be posted because I have had a couple people ask me about it and that they're interested. And then I have several people reach out and they said they can't get a hold of one after leaving voicemails. And that I understand that the select board chair acts as the health officer when we don't have one. However, I thought that the position's approved by the state for 3 years, but is recommended from the select board. And all the work shouldn't fall on one person. So I know, like right now, that you have to, or the chairman of the select board has to act as the health officer, but I don't think you should have to do that position for like the 3-year term that it's up. So you don't have to respond tonight, that it can be, on another agenda item, but I would like to hear something like within the next couple of weeks, if possible.
That's fine. I think in the last meeting, the board appointed me as the health officer and I agreed to take it. I apologize for not, getting any email or voicemails. Emails I've been answering, voicemails I have not. That's a fact.
So
I thought we had, did we post it? We didn't post it. It's just an open position on our website, right? Or is it not open anymore?
It was never open.
Oh, okay.
The board didn't ask me to advertise.
I couldn't remember. So I agreed to take it last meeting, Julie, because it seems like it's revolving door. We get a health officer in and they either don't do their job, we can't get a hold of them. They're an invisible person type thing. They're not in there for very long. So the board at the last meeting, I believe it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agreed to take it on. You're right. I don't need any more to do. I'm not gonna sit there and lie and say it's, something I really need, but.
all right, so then I don't want to go in on too much of it because I know that your agenda's full. So then are you saying that you're gonna be appointed for the remainder of the year? And then or are you filling in for the 3-year term? Or type of a thing. So, I mean, like I said, I have a couple more questions, but I don't want to take it up on your meeting tonight because I know you have full agenda.
Maybe that's something we can add to the next.
Yeah, I think it's an agenda item.
Yeah, could be an agenda item for our next regular meeting. And if there were people that were interested in the health officer position, I would invite them to the next regular board meeting, which is be in July. And we can discuss it. I mean, like I said, I think the biggest problem is the revolving door. You know, it's not an easy thing to remove someone from the health officer position after they come in. Because it is a state appointed position. So that's kind of where we were at with the last time.
Okay. So, like I said, I'm not going to debate it now.
Yep.
And because I have issues, not just because I have to work with the health officer also. So I just want to just then make sure we go on the agenda for the future, and then the people that are interested, I will also. So, but that's all I have.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's like July 10th.
Yes, it is.
Do the July 10th meeting, Julie, if you're still there.
Okay. Yep. Thank
Any
you.
more public comment?
No other hands up.
Anybody in the room? And I apologize to the room because people that come here, I usually do public comment here first, so I apologize. When I'm not used to having people here. Yeah, Bill? Could you just state your name? Could you just state your name for us, Bill?
Bill Lounsbury, from Mountain. What is the appropriate time to maybe discuss some of this, resolution that's on the table?
That's an agenda item.
It's an agenda item, so, yeah.
Coming up soon.
Yep. Okay. Approval of minutes, June 12th, select board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, corrections, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Warrants, accounts payable, June 20th, 2025, $12,048.71.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Accounts payable, June 27th, $60,103.30.
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Payroll, June 20th, $11,210.58.
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Payroll, June 27th, $11,487.47.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments? Sorry, I lost track. Questions, comments on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Resolution affirming the constitutional rights of all people of Pownell, discussion and possible action.
Shall I, do you understand? Do you want, or can I just?
Whatever you want to do, just please state your name so that people know who's speaking.
I will.
Thank
My
you.
name is Helen Olsheeper and I'm a long-term resident of Pownell. It's come to my attention that quite a few Vermont towns have recently passed resolutions to affirm and support the constitutional rights of all of their residents. Bennington and Shaftesbury just recently passed theirs, and Rutland did so in April. In May, select boards in Wallingford, Brandon, Jericho, Pittsfield, and Rockingham also passed such resolutions. Some of my neighbors and friends and I are interested in following a similar path in our town. Few of us have worked on revising some of the other resolutions that have been passed and signed by select boards and aldermen. I appreciate the opportunity to read our proposed nonpartisan resolution for you to consider today. We're asking you, our select board, to make a clear stand for protecting the rights of every person around town. Thanks. And I will read the resolution. Town of Pownell resolution affirming the constitutional rights of all people in Pownell. whereas the United States Constitution guarantees due process, equal protection, and fundamental rights to all persons in the United States, regardless of citizenship, immigration status, race, religion, or political belief. And whereas recent actions by federal authorities, including detention of residents without due process, represent a violation of these constitutional protections. And whereas the Pownell Select Board opposes any policy or action, local, state, or federal, that targets individuals based on who they are, where they come from, or what they believe or say, and defines Pownell as a community rooted in justice and the equal dignity of all. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Pownell affirms its commitment to protecting the constitutional rights of all people in our town, regardless of citizenship status, national origin, political belief, or any other identity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bill, do you want, anybody else?
Just a quick question. Starters, compelling. I couldn't quite hear all of what you said.
Oh.
Could you perhaps give a percentage of the towns that have and have not accepted this?
I named about 7 or 8 of them. Did you hear what I named? The
I
towns?
heard most of it.
Yeah,
But 7 or 8 against the state. That's all I wanted to know.
I've gathered that many, many more have them coming up on the agendas of the select board.
Are any of those going to be a ballot vote?
I don't know. None of these have been. These have all been just done by the select boards of the town.
Has the board considered a ballot vote on this?
This is our first time considering this, so this is the discussion.
Discussing this, Bill, honestly.
Okay, so nothing will be decided tonight at this point.
I wouldn't say that. There may be a decision made. I don't know what it might be. I'm not great at tabling things. I like to push forward one way or another, so I'm not exactly positive what the decision will be. I think as a board, we have not discussed this at all. I think now is our time to do it. And if there's nobody else in the audience here that wants to speak to it, I think I'm going to open it to the board for us to discuss if we have questions or concerns. And then I'll come back out.
I would like to, if I could address this because it was brought to me.
Sure.
So I will say that I think all of us on the board received a version of a resolution. It didn't exactly look like this. The one that we all saw was one that I think had been circulated. I know that Bennington got the same thing, and the other towns received the exact same resolution. And so Helen, we had a conversation, you brought that to me, and I looked at it, and you all have also done some work on that, I think, to significantly cut down the resolution, to make it more concise. So it looks like for me, very concise language, very tight language. And I will say that's something that I appreciate about it. And so I was happy to bring it to the board. And the reason for that particularly is the resolution itself, which is contained in the very last sentence, which says that the town of Pownell affirms its commitment to protecting the constitutional rights of all people in our town, regardless of citizenship status, national origin, political belief, or any other identity. And I think the note that we're committed to protecting the constitutional rights, I think for me anyway is obvious as someone who has taken an oath to uphold the Constitution twice in my career. And it's not an expansion of rights, it's simply upholding current constitutional rights. And so I think that's why I am not aware of any town that has not passed the resolution when it's come before them. I am happy to do that research. And it is also my understanding it's before other towns. And I think that there are more that have passed it other than the ones that you enumerated on. And I think and I appreciate your characterization of it as nonpartisan, because I think at the end of the day, it's about ensuring that, yes, we do believe that all residents of our town should have whatever constitutional rights that happen to be due enforced. So that's why I brought this to our board.
A portion of that list, regardless of legal status, regardless of immigrant status, I feel that leaves the door open to perhaps illegal immigrants. That's my concern. That's my main concern about this.
No, I totally, and I hear that, and I really appreciate you bringing the concern, I do. This resolution does not expand any right that anyone who is undocumented in this country may have. But the reality is that even people who are here as residents who are undocumented, they still have certain rights under our Constitution. It's one of the things that makes our Constitution different. So we cannot open the door any further than what the Constitution would permit. And I think that that's why it's so focused on constitutional rights. We can debate what someone might want to do as far as like voting rights or something else like some Vermont towns have, but this is very concise, I think, on constitutional. So I do hear you. But that's why I think it's so closely tailored.
So basically, you're saying that anyone that is illegal immigrant in this country does not allow the constitutional rights.
No, what I do know to be true legally, and that we have seen numerous courts now uphold, is that it is true that people need proper documentation in this country. When they do not, that is a civil violation. But under our Constitution, which I think is unique among all constitutions, and which I do support, even people who do not have legal status, they still have certain constitutional rights, which include due process and equal protection under the law. It's one of the things that makes me proud of our Constitution. This does not expand those rights. It can't. Vermont doesn't have that power. Powell doesn't have that power, right? I think it affirms rights, but it doesn't attempt to expand them.
Okay. Anybody else?
My thoughts? I feel that this should, I would love to see this at a town meeting, because I'd love to have everybody in town discuss this. Am I an expert in all this? I think it sounds reasonable, but I think that I believe that this is something that should be a town meeting decision with the citizens of the town of Pownell, not just us wise men up here. If you do a vote, I don't, a vote right at the you can do a vote right at the town meeting, am I correct, Mike?
Yes. You can do a floor vote.
A floor vote or however.
Mhm.
But I think that in truth, that's where I feel. That's what I'm at.
Anybody else on the board? Yeah, I saw that. I want to give it to the board for a couple minutes. So I'll get to you guys. Of course, I just want to come back here and see if the board has anything after the initial comment. But I'll come back along, I promise. Jamie, anything, Brian?
I have a question. So where it says, whereas the Pownell Select Board opposes any policies or actions and so forth, what is implied or meant by opposes?
I think opposes is a statement of values and intention not to participate in anything that would threaten the rights, the constitutional rights of any person in the town. I mean, we can't, if an arrest happens or something like that, that's one thing. But to not participate or enable those kinds of things to happen in our town. And I believe that's what is meant here by opposing. So you're not going to enable anything that will threaten someone's human rights in this town. And, you know, it's a big statement of values, I think.
Okay.
Anybody else on the board?
There's a long list of different things in the Constitution. And there's a lot of interpretation, different ways to interpret those also. So there, I know that, the second item in your, where you wrote on here, recent actions by authorities, including detention, residents without due process, representation, violation, these constitutional rights, and from what has been told is that has been done through an article within our Constitution. I don't, good, bad, or indifferent. So, if you're asking me if ICE can't come to town, if they have a bad person that they have to take and that's on their radar, I don't feel that, I know I'm not going to stop somebody I've been advocating to help clean up a lot of the riffraff in this town and support the law enforcement and whatnot, as long as it is done lawfully. So as far as following the Constitution, I have no issue with that. I don't want to feel, when on to part of Brian's question, it's like I can't take and oppose a federal entity coming in if they have to do a job, I guess is where I'm coming from. I would hope that they're doing it lawfully and following the Constitution per the way it's
Can you
written.
hold on a minute, Jamie? I think we're having one.
We're having technical issues.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's people out there that are definitely in the room and listening. so.
Our video is glitching, they can still hear our audio.
Okay, so the audio is working fine. It's just our video that we're having trouble with.
Oh, we can hear.
Yeah,
Okay.
just text me if she can't hear it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm
Perfect.
sorry.
I can't.
I did not want to interrupt and change anybody's train of thought. But there was some chats coming up, so.
But that's all. I just
Video, they can hear.
personally want to be clear that, I feel long as it's done lawfully and per our constitutional rights and our Vermont state constitutional rights also. We've got a very strong constitution in our own state, and a lot of it mimics the United States Constitution. I fully support that. So.
I think.
So I'll get to you. I promise. I
Sorry,
promise.
I'm sorry.
Everyone will get ample opportunity, I promise. First, I want to say that I fully support the Constitution of the United States, always have, and I've been proud of it my entire life. I've actually done some extensive research on it when I was younger. I forgot most of it, but that was one of the things in school. One of the things as a select board member that I've always been incredibly proud of is to represent the residents and constituents of this town as to what I felt was the best decision. And the boards that I've sat on, I think we've done a tremendous job at that. I do, however, feel this is just my gut feeling after I saw this. I feel this is something that putting on the back, and I think other towns were kind of wrong about this, if you want my honest opinion. If you put it on the back of 5 people or 3 people, however many people are running the town, I think it's a lot to ask. Because my view of the Constitution could be totally different than yours. And I'm just using you for an example. And now, okay, my view could be totally different. I think giving the actual townspeople, whether it be a town meeting on a floor vote, whether it be a ballot article, I think those had suggested, possibly a ballot article. And I don't think this is something that's a vital thing to act on tonight. Or at any time in the right future, real near future. I mean, I think putting it on, I kind of got a couple of reasons, right? I think putting it on floor voting at the town meeting, might get more than 5 or 6 people at the town meeting and have them come in and talk about things. Cool. We might get some actual people to show up and talk about this. I think this is an incredibly important thing. And I do support the Constitution wholeheartedly. I just think that it's a little bit more than 5 people in this case should be making a decision on pro or con. I think there should be more voices involved. I think this is where the taxpayers and residents of the town of Pownell should have a little more say. And if they don't show up, well, then we'll make a decision, right? But I think give them that opportunity. And that's just my point. So I'm gonna go to you in the back. Sorry, can you just state your name for us?
Yeah, hi, I'm Amelia Silver. I live in Powell. I've lived here for 13 years. I had a couple of responses to Mr. Strohmeyer first. I would just say that my understanding of this proposed resolution is that it isn't a proposal for the town of Pownell. It's to the select board specifically. And my understanding of it is that the purpose is for the select board to take a stand, which is, I think, a pretty modest one, which is to say we support and uphold the constitutional protections of all residents of our town, which is, it's a pretty low bar actually, because I think we all do that. So it isn't, I mean, I can understand the value, definitely, as you said, about having more people come to town meeting, the value of having some floor discussion about this. But this isn't about a vote. This is about asking the select board to, I think, in a sense, exercise their leadership and speak for us and to say, we are elected officials. And we have elected you to make a lot of decisions for us, and you don't consult with the town members on every important decision. You make a lot of important decisions for our town, which is why we elected you, and we're grateful for that because it's an important trust that the residents of Pownell have put in here. So that's my feeling about the issue about putting it to a vote or something. And then the other thing I was gonna just respond to is that, Jamie, you mentioned, that you obviously support the Constitution, which I think, we can just assume good faith here that we all do. We're all Americans.
Like chat for the country for.
We all live here and we all enjoy extraordinary freedom in our country that just doesn't exist in other places. And this resolution, I think, doesn't suggest in any way that you as a select board would be asked to oppose constitutionally protected activities of any government officials. So you mentioned ICE because clearly that's one of the things that's being thought about here. And it's not about opposing ICE. It's about opposing actions that ICE might take that are not, don't pass constitutional muster, which we all know because even if you don't read the papers, you've heard, there have been a lot of very unconstitutional actions taken. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of detentions of people where due process rights were not respected at all. And we don't want to be a town that supports that. It doesn't mean that ICE doesn't have a job to do. And it's important that our federal government, law enforcement be able to do the things they need to do, but never when it violates the constitutional rights of due process of anyone who lives here. So that was all my, sorry I went on so long, but that was my response.
Nathan? Sorry, I'm just kind of going order where I saw hands pop up.
Oh, well, yeah, so I just want to reaffirm that, yeah, there's like, in terms of having a town vote on this, it's like there's not really anything for them to vote on because this isn't about like giving new rights or restricting rights or anything like that. It's sort of, I think it is more about kind of you folks committing to showing leadership. And I think that the real situation that I worry about is an issue of due process. And, you know, the Constitution very clearly says that even people who are here undocumented, illegally, whatever you want to call it, still deserve due process. And I guess where I would ask the select board to oppose based on this resolution is if someone comes in without a warrant looking for information about where somebody in our community is, or, you know, something along those lines, that just you would not cooperate with them and give them information unless they showed that they had the right documents to actually be going after this person. So I'm not asking you to like put yourselves in harm's way, but I think this is really just, I think due process is why this is really important, because we know that that's something that's being denied of a lot of people, both citizens and non-citizens. So I think for me, that's the crux of it. And that's why I would really urge you to support this resolution, because I think we can all agree that based on what the Constitution very clearly says, everybody, regardless of their legal status, deserves due process. And if we don't have that, then how do we know who's legal and who isn't? They could accuse any of us and take us away, and we wouldn't get a chance to defend ourselves. So they may not be coming after me right now, but there's no reason they couldn't. And that's what I worry about. Thanks.
So I apologize. That was Nathan Fowle.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That was my bad.
David Fowle. So Nate covered half of what I was going to say, but I flip it upside down and just think about, and whether you brought it to a town meeting or not, what is the town voting on? They can't vote to be opposed to the constitutional rights. You can't. I hope you wouldn't sit here and oppose this resolution, which is simply saying we support the Constitution. That would blow my mind. And I think
it's a possibility.
It is a possibility, but it would blow my mind. And I think you'd get quite a few people very unhappy with you if you did that. The resolution is pretty straightforward about what it's saying, as various people have said. The only reason the resolution is being brought forward is because people are denying people's rights, and we don't like that. And we hope you don't like that. And we're asking you to affirm that you don't like that. And that's it.
I just have a question. Select board members take an oath, right?
Mhm.
And in that oath, are you asked to uphold the constitutional rights of all people in town?
Correct.
Well,
I gotta, hold on, let's answer
I
that
just-
question.
yeah, I was
He's
just-
working on that.
I thought so. I just wasn't sure on the wording.
Right. I'll come back.
Yeah, I think so. And so I don't have the full oath in front of me.
I believe it's in there.
It should be,
sure.
I think it
which is
is.
why I don't think this should be controversial.
I don't think it's controversial.
I don't think it's controversial.
Yeah. And I think the public comment is incredibly awesome tonight,
Yeah.
and I really do. You know, there's some points that are brought up for sure. I, for one, didn't look at it as Amelia stated and Nathan. I look at it as a leadership thing, so to speak, and I appreciate that point that you both brought up. Okay, I want to say that for sure. It's something that just, you know, when you think about things, there's a lot of agenda items every week, and you know, so you try to think each one through, right, or every 2 weeks. And it just, sometimes things slip. That was a great point that I hadn't really considered. So I just wanted to thank you both for that. So we're gonna.
Tom Zilber, the president of Pelham. Like you both, I'm sure, I read the newspaper and sometimes I ask myself, well, what is the Constitution? What does it say about this? I'm not like a scholar or something. So I read what other people are saying and is that true or is that true? Maybe this is, a moment maybe the question is more like, is this resolution, is it really what reflect what the Constitution actually says? I mean, we're hearing folks say it's really just saying I support the Constitution. Maybe this is a time to table it for one session and then the board members just, do their own sort of like homework. And, oh yeah, this is what the Constitution actually says, or no, it's not what the Constitution says. And then you have some basis to say, no, I can't support this resolution. It's really not. It's different than what I understand the Constitution. To me, that's one part of it. In terms of the resolution, like, I think it should be unfortunately, on you folks' 5 shoulders. I mean, because resolutions typically are passed by elected bodies, municipalities, legislatures. I don't think it's normally passed to town meetings because they're really not sort of, okay, are we going to pay this bill? Are we going to do this concrete thing? It's, as Helen said, a statement of value. It's just, this leadership body is saying, I believe in the Constitution. If that's in fact what the resolution says. So that's how I see it.
Hands up.
Yeah, Fred, no.
Okay, let's listen to Fred and then we'll come back to the board.
You can go ahead, Fred.
Fred?
Have to unmute, Fred.
I'm trying to.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I got it unmuted. Okay. Yeah.
Can you just state your name, please?
Yeah. I'm Fred Miller, resident of Pownell. I saw this listed on the agenda, and I became a little bit concerned that that you guys are being asked to do this. I know it's a popular movement that's gaining support around the country. It's based on the idea of opposition to the current administration. And I think that's the heart of this matter. I know there's allegations that people's rights are being violated. People who have broken the rules, committed crimes, and are being picked up as they should be. And it's popular to as part of the opposition to the current administration to stand up and say that people's rights are being violated. But I know that the courts are dealing with this, and a lot of this stuff is going right to the Supreme Court, and they're settling it. I don't think the small town of Pownell really needs to get involved in any of this. I know in November, when we elected a new president, that the voters in Pownell were heavier in support of the current administration. And I think you're honoring the vote of your citizens by tabling this indefinitely or voting to not advance it any further. Just let things play out in the court systems. I think the court system is pretty big, and they've got many layers, and it ends with the Supreme Court. So let's just go with that. Thank you.
Anybody on the board have any more comments?
Yeah.
I'm gonna come here first. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I do. So Fred, thank you for calling in. I think this is incredibly important. I think we should have a good, robust discussion here. I think that's the essence and core of meetings and select board meetings. And that is an important value that I do want to defend and protect here. And that is the First Amendment right. And that is also something that's guaranteed by our Constitution. I don't think that anyone, and this is why I do also believe this is a nonpartisan statement, because at its core, when you get to get resolved, what we're resolving is that it affirms this town, affirms its commitment to protecting the constitutional rights of all people. That's what's referred, not affirming to protect rights that aren't enumerated in the Constitution. This is being litigated right now. It has gone to the Supreme Court at this point numerous times, and our Supreme Court, which is a pretty conservative Supreme Court, have found that rights are being violated. Like, this is not theory or smoke and mirrors, or maybe this is happening. And regardless of who anyone voted for this past November, I don't think anybody voted to upend or terminate our Constitution. And there is no elected official who has the power to do that. We have an incredibly unique and important tripartite system of government. And so I do also agree this is a select board issue to say whether or not we're going to affirm our commitment to protecting the constitutional rights of people. That's not something we get to decide to do as a town or not. It's something we've already said that we are going to do. So I'm prepared to state that publicly again, that I am committed to that. And I would like to see a roll call vote on it.
I'm Alexandra Weil, resident of Powell. I just wanted to say I am a recent immigrant and a citizen now. I think this is very urgent and very important. I hope that the board can understand to have some empathy for the people who rights are being violated. And while I understand maybe tabling it for one session, I think you need to move quickly. People's lives are at stake.
Thank you. Any more comments in the room? Go ahead.
I just wanted to affirm what Alexandra just said, that if you decided it should be to a town vote, which I personally don't think it should be. I think the select board, this is a select board issue, but that would delay it till March, next March. This is an immediate issue. We know that people's rights,
Hold on, Carl.
yes, we know that people's rights have been unlawfully ignored and taken away. And again, it's not a partisan thing. It's really just, do we believe in protecting everybody's rights?
So I'm gonna speak real quick on this, and then I'm gonna go to Carl for his comment. I'm gonna agree that I'm gonna change my opinion, honestly. I'm gonna agree that this is a select board issue for the simple fact that, yes, the people in town voted the five of us in to a leadership role. And I'm going to agree with that 100%, that yes, it is our duty, because as Amelia stated, there's a lot of things that we vote on that you put your confidence, the people who voted, whether they voted for us or against us, they put their confidence in the person that they were trying to put on this board. Right? That flip-flop, I mean, I don't flip-flop easy, I'll be honest. You know, I usually try to think things through pretty good, but that flip-flop, you need to, vote, yes, vote here, whether we do it tonight or we table it as Tom has suggested for so that we could, and that's gonna be a decision that we're gonna make, right? Whether we to do a little bit more research, but if I do table it, it's probably really only gonna be for 2 weeks. I'm gonna be honest with everyone here. So Carl, I'm sorry, I'll come back.
I forgot my question.
I was hoping that.
One, why you said we have to do it tonight. Why? I'm talking to her. You were turning around saying we need to do this right now.
To Amelia?
No, not Amelia.
To me, Helen.
To you.
Helen,
Helen, sorry, my apologies.
that's okay. I didn't mean to say it had to be done tonight.
No, I understand that, but you were.
And not to put it off till March.
I still feel that this is I believe in democracy. I believe that everybody should have in the town of Pownell should have the opportunity to take a stand or to at least have their say in this important resolution. And you're asking us
and you say that, what is the people going to do? Are they going to vote to support the Constitution or oppose the Constitution? But you're asking the select board to do the same thing. Because you're turning, so why are you not willing to ask the citizens of the town of Pownell the same thing that you are asking us 5 selectmen?
This is a great question. Can I please answer? Yes, I'm just jumping out of my seat here. It's a great question. I mean, I feel like I'm in a class. This is excellent, really. The reason is that I don't need to inquire of everyone in Pownell what they believe about constitutional rights, because I didn't vote for everyone in Pownell, but I voted for you guys. And I think your chair sort of highlighted that or brought that out based on some of the discussion here, which is that as a resident of this town, it's important for me personally, and I'm not speaking for anyone else, I'm not speaking for my husband or my neighbors, just for me. It's very important that I know that the people that we voted to represent us feel a commitment to uphold the Constitution. My neighbors may be anarchists. They may not vote. They may think that no one has any rights. They may not think I should have rights because I'm a woman. Who knows? I don't really care, but I do care about you guys. And just one other thing, I'm sorry, I just keep tagging on. I wanted to add something in response to you, Jamie, about, cleaning up and people, you don't want bad actors coming into town. And, we all feel that way. Nobody wants rampant criminal activity, but every person in this country who is suspected of committing a crime has the right to be represented by an attorney, and they have a right to a fair hearing, and they have a right to all the protections under the Constitution. And if they're convicted, they go to jail. But many, many, many people are suspected of doing things, and that doesn't mean we deport them. It means they get a shot. They have a chance to speak and to be represented. And that's what we have to do. The reason we are a different place than Hungary or North Korea is because our people have these rights. This sets us apart from the rest of the world, not the entire world, but it sets us apart. It's part of why I'm proud to be an American, why I'm proud to have a flag, and why I say the Pledge of Allegiance is because everyone has the right to be treated fairly.
And that's why I stated, long as they're doing it lawfully.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
That's all I was trying to be clear.
Yes.
I thought I had another comment on this side. Dan, no more over there? All right, David? Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I know you did have your hand up. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Identify myself. Bill Lounsbury again, Vermont, registered voter. We all in this room, when we got here tonight, pledged allegiance to that flag. I'm not against the Constitution or anything it represents. I am a little bit concerned, and I agree with Mr. Strohmeyer, and I've written a letter, and I'd like to read that now if it's possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Town of Pownell Select Board, subject, resolution affirming constitutional rights of all people of Pownell. At this time, I request the Pownell Select Board to allow this resolution to go before the voters of the town of Pownell at the next scheduled polling event. This would allow rights to all persons, rights of all people in our town, and the equal dignity of all is outlined in the proposed resolution to be expressed. It would also provide time to move to more clearly define the phrase regardless of immigration status. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Respectfully submitted, Bill Lounsbury. At this point, I will submit this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. David has one thing. Oh, 2 seconds. Sorry.
The Constitution says that all persons in this country, no matter status, have the rights of due process. That's the language of the Constitution. Even a criminal has due process. We presume innocence. In terms of whether it should go to the town for a vote, speaking more generally, I feel like we elect the select board to make decisions for the town because you're investing yourselves in doing the research and weighing things the way that most of the residents of town don't take the time to do. I don't know how the town would vote. I would hope the town would vote to support the Constitution and the language of the Constitution. But, you know, I'm not going to ask the town to vote on whether we should fix this bridge or not, or whether we should do this. There's complicated things involved, and that's what we elect a select board to make those kind of decisions. So I feel like a lot of votes that go to, I think it'd be a great exercise to have a conversation with the town about this. I think that'd be really interesting. But asking the whole town to vote, I think it would be a much more of an emotional kind of thing rather than a reasoned thing, just based on past experience that I've seen. And that's fine. You know, maybe you want the emotional vote. I'd like a reasoned vote.
Do I have any hands up in right now?
When we have boards elected, we usually select an odd number. We have 5 people here tonight. 2 could go one way, 2 could go another. That leaves a decision to one person. And I just assume have it over the broader spectrum.
Do I have any more comments from the board? No. Anybody here?
And I would like to.
No, I do, but I'm letting everybody else have their say first.
I think everybody's done.
Okay, so I have, so just going over this, and I hear the concern of everybody and the talk about wanting to make this as concise as possible. And so I'm gonna throw this out there, then we can discuss it if you want. So I was gonna propose changing the wording of it and shortening it even more to simply say, whereas the United States Constitution guarantees certain rights as outlined in the Bill of Rights, now therefore it is resolved that the town of Pownell affirms its commitment to provide all constitutional rights of all people in our town. Short and simple.
I like it. Yeah. I'm not a constitutional scholar. Are all the rights enumerated just in the Bill of Rights, or are they not?
No.
No, they're not in the bill and the
Don't ask me which ones are not and which ones are,
That's
because
the
I can't
entire
answer that.
Constitution.
I think it's
Why
the
this is a
entire
broad
Constitution.
statement.
Right.
We're committed to upholding the Constitution.
As outlined in all founding documents. How about that?
No, it's the Constitution.
How about just,
All right,
Yeah.
as outlined in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Okay.
so you just want to get rid of whereases and just get to the,
Just get to the
that'd
bottom.
be fine.
Yep.
Just be it resolved that the town of.
Cut all the emotional stuff out of it.
Right.
Take all perceived controversial language out of it. Cut right to the heart of it. We support the Constitution. Short and simple.
So just down to the now therefore be it resolved. I mean, because that's.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. Want to just
I'm happy with it.
down to the now therefore be it resolved language?
So I'm not sure you're on the same language.
I don't think they
Change is a
are.
little bit different.
Yeah.
It's on the very last, number.
But I don't think that's
But
like,
I think, no, that's not what Brian was presenting at first, but I think that's.
Brian, would you read what your proposal is?
All right, so with the change that we just discussed, whereas the United States Constitution guarantees certain rights as outlined in the Constitution, now therefore be it resolved that the town of Pownell affirms its commitment to protecting all constitutional rights of all people in our town.
If we, and I don't want to interject here, but I want to move on from this. I really do. And I think this has been incredibly effective conversation all the way through. Okay. We've had some pros, we've had some cons, we've had some great, really great conversation here. I think, Brian, if we went to article number 4 on this page where it says now therefore be it resolved, that whole entire thing it's already there. The first 3 we can throw away as this is what the town of Pownell is doing. We're supporting the Constitution of the United States.
Even shorter.
Period.
Love it.
And that's what Jeannie just proposed. Is that right?
That is my proposal, and I didn't bring it, so I do want to ask our residents who brought it. What are your thoughts on that, or do you want us to push through with a vote on the entire document?
On the one that we have up here.
Right.
Yeah, so we would get rid of the first 3 paragraphs and just do the last paragraph.
Correct.
Actually, basically, the two center, you're partially keeping the first, you're omitting the two center.
Yeah, but don't try to confuse everything here. Let's just be concise, right? So here's, and I know exactly what Jeannie's asking you guys. Okay. You, the residents, brought this in here. You're here for comment, and some people on Zoom. Would you feel comfortable? I think the proposal now is to have the board vote on just the article 1 and 4.
Yeah, because I think going back to what Brian said.
Okay.
I would suggest if we have it written.
Yes.
Yeah, because the last
And brought
paragraph is
back.
different than what Brian.
So if that's exactly what I was gonna say. If you could bring this back on July 10th. Right here, what Jeannie's proposing, I think this board is very comfortable.
Brian just actually had clipped that down even more.
No.
Right, that's why it's easier to.
Can I just check on that?
Hold on. Let's be.
And even that, none of that was included, so it is different than just the last paragraph. What Brian said.
Yeah.
So we do have. Then I did ask Brian, are you okay with the last paragraph? And he said yes. Having that wording in there, yes.
I mean,
For the last paragraph, which wording are you?
Exactly.
Asking if that's.
Affirms.
Yeah, up until where it says, rights of all people in our town, hard stop.
You don't want to say regardless of citizenship status, national.
No, because all people means all people.
All people, period.
All people.
Well, so I just want to point out, like, it's, if you sign on to that one thing, you are signing on to all the same stuff. Like, it's all semantic at that point, whether it's all people or not, like.
So therefore, we don't need the additional
Well,
language.
sure, I think personally it's important because, like, I think it's important because the reason that.
But by adding,
brought up.
in my opinion, by adding additional call outs, calling out certain things, that's almost an exclusionary language.
Yeah, so I completely, like, whatever you guys do, if you want to pass that one thing, I feel really good about that. Like, I trust you all to make the right decision. I don't think that anything in any of those other bits is controversial in the last bit or goes against that last thing. So I don't see why you wouldn't want to just pass it as is personally. But again, like, I didn't write it, and like, as long as you commit to upholding the Constitution, I'm a happy camper. I don't see what the difference is.
This here and then this one down here, right?
Yeah. And then Mike had mentioned about,
Let's just have.
just take
open
this out,
discussion here now.
pretty much do that.
Okay. Open discussion there. So, David.
Guess my question is that we're all operating under the Constitution already. And the only reason this has come up is because there are some things going on that are making us nervous about particularly immigrants, and people not getting due process, being whisked off to someplace and not getting due process, despite the fact that we're living under the Constitution. So what you're suggesting is Constitution, which we already have. This is saying there's some stuff going on we're not comfortable with, and we want to affirm that we're not going to go that way. That's the difference to me.
So I'm confused by what you just said. Forgive me, but the way you just worded that makes it seem like we're gonna go against the Constitution then?
No, you misunderstand.
Well, that's why I'm like, I understand your intention, but it was how you worded it that confused me.
So if you understand my intention, do you need me to say it again?
Repeat it again then.
Just say it in a different way. Say
So
We already live on
Yeah,
a
so-
constitution that we've all made pledges to, and I imagine everybody on the select board had a pledge to support the Constitution. I don't know what you guys pledged to. We see some things going on that we fear are not constitutional. Now, I'm not a constitutional scholar. It's going to have to go through the courts, all that. I mean, that's all true. But to not stand up for the rights of the Jamaicans who are working at the apple, the apple orchard up there, or the Afghani refugees that are in Bennington. I'm not that you have jurisdiction over them, but I'm sure there are some in this town too, that just by the fact that they're Afghani might have somebody coming after them. And if that's the case, why not go after Nate too? Because, he's got funny hair or something. That kind of stuff seems to be happening, and I'm not comfortable with that. That's the purpose. So just saying we support the Constitution to me is not saying enough. It's basically saying we're going to support all people, no matter their citizenship status, their national origin, their political beliefs, or any other identity.
Well, honestly, or David, sorry, you got the hair.
No, that's not.
You got the hair thing going. So, honestly, our United States Constitution says that's exactly what it says.
Yep.
Regardless of citizenship, immigration status, race, religion, so on and so forth. That's exactly what it says, right? Now, I think that if we as the select board affirm our commitment to the Constitution of the United States, I don't like getting involved in the federal politics portion of it. I like doing what's right for everyone here. And when I say everyone, some people are gonna be mad, some people aren't gonna be mad, but we as a board try to do the best that we think is what things are the best for the town of Pownell. Right? We're not gonna change national politics.
Correct.
We're not gonna change it here. We can be a small voice, there's no doubt. But I think if we affirm that we support the Constitution of the United States, all of this other stuff is already set in there, right? And I think that's gonna carry weight throughout the entire state of Vermont, because Pownell joined the list of towns that you listed off, Helen, because we support the Constitution. Okay? I think where it's getting a little bit sticky here tonight from what I'm seeing is when we talk about the illegal immigrants and so on and so forth. Look at I'm not sure that I can look around this room and say that there's one person in here that didn't come from an immigrant family. We all somewhere, right? So there's a difference. And I think that it's not for me personally to decide who is or isn't an illegal immigrant. And I think there's processes in place for that. Unfortunately, I think they're flawed. I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not. But I think and I'm comfortable voting all the way. I'm just trying to get this thing so we can move on to agenda item number 9, to be honest with you. I'll be there in a second. I just want to finish this. So I think if we were to say we support the Constitution of the United States as it's written, I think we're jumping on some of this other stuff. So, yeah.
I have maybe a little solution that might satisfy Brian and everyone else, which is that I think saying that we support the Constitution is just a little too generic. I think in order to address what David is saying, which is that we're bringing this up, this is being brought up obviously because there's stuff going on. And I can feel, and certainly Brian has expressed at least, and others, not wanting to get into any detail. But I don't think it serves any purpose to say we support the Constitution. I think it would serve a purpose that may be a compromise to say the Pownell Select Board, resolves that it supports the constitutional, the protections afforded to all people by the United States and Vermont constitutions. And then you have it. And you don't have to start talking about due process and which people, but it's not the Constitution. You're saying that you're supporting the protections afforded by the Constitution. And then that sort of satisfies this group, and I think it also satisfies the other group.
So here's my proposal to you, so we can move on to the next agenda item. July 10th, we're gonna have a board meeting. If you would be so. Write that up.
Some other language, right?
Use a little bit of a different language, such as what you just said. I think it's about a 2-minute vote on July 10th.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that.
Using the kind of the language that Brian had.
The kind of language that Amelia just.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to what Amelia
No,
just
I'm
said.
not opposed to what Amelia said at all.
Use for language, could we do that?
Yeah, protection afforded by.
The Vermont and the US Constitution.
And Amelia, could you send that to my email so I could share it with the board before the meeting?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Is everyone comfortable with that? We'll bring it back July 10th. I mean, and I'm asking you because you're here.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great discussion. That was awesome. Okay. Thank you again. Agreement with Pownell Youth Sports, possible action.
This should be really fast. I sent you all the agreement that was approved by the attorney. Pownell Youth Sports signed it, sent it back. Did anybody have any questions or anything about it?
I might have. And I didn't.
I read it online, so.
Yeah, so. Sorry, I've got notes. I guess my only question, I don't see it right here, but I think about section 11, it mentions a rental agreement. And it's not really a rental agreement, is it? It's more like section 11 refers to a rental agreement, but it's not a rental agreement, it's a license for use.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need a clarification. No one is paying us for that, right? Okay. That would be it's fine, but I just wanted to put that out.
Anybody else have any questions on that? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Seconded.
The motion is to approve the agreement, Carl,
Yes,
with Pownell Youth Sports.
yes.
I have a motion, I have a second to approve the agreement. All those in favor?
Abstain. That's right.
Parks and Rec request to purchase and install recreation signage, discussion and possible action on that. Everybody read that.
Parks and Rec has about $1,000 they wanted to designate towards signage, but because it's over that purchasing amount and because these are gonna be going on town roads, I just wanted select board blessing. I sent you the designs, they match all of our other signage. And Nate's been working really hard on getting them organized, and he has a spreadsheet that I sent you all that has the locations as well. And I think all of that stuff is in the archive also, if people wanna look at
Is that within budget?
it. Yeah, he will order.
Yeah, we're trying to spend a little bit of extra budget before the end of the fiscal year.
So my question to you, Nathan, because you're heading this up, and this is your baby, so to speak. There's 2 sign designs.
Yes, but we're still working on refining the final design. We're trying to figure out whether it makes more sense to do it all on one sign or have each item be an individual sign, which would make it easier to like add new items or change things if we needed to.
So we're not voting on one or the other of the designs you gave us. We're just voting on you to do the signage, and it's going to be similar. I just want to be clear.
Yeah, no,
It's
totally.
going to be similar to what you have presented, but you're going to come up with the final design based on what you sent.
Yes, it will be very similar to that.
Okay.
We're still working out the details, but
I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure everyone else is clear.
Definitely. Right. Question I would have would be the 2 signs. They're most likely going to be similar prices. I just don't want to all of a sudden one it goes more expensive and we thought it was here, but it's actually gonna be up here.
Well, he has a budget.
I know, I understand that.
To stay in, so it appeared to me on the spreadsheet, correct me if I'm wrong, that you sent us. One sign design, you could get X number of signs for our budget.
Mhm.
And the other design, you could get less number of signs because it was the more expensive design.
Right, yeah, depending on.
You're spending the amount, and if you spend, you can get a lot more signs or less, depending on which one of those two things you use, am I correct?
We don't know for sure. I think it's the number of recreation points that we're pointing to is going to be the same either way. It's kind of semantic. It's just, are we printing, 20 big signs or 50 little signs that have the same information?
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, we're like in the process of getting posted. We're hoping to have a quote basically tomorrow. We're just rushing to get ahead of the deadline at the end of the month. So we're
I get it.
yeah, so it's just, yeah, we're gonna.
I know, the year end thing, but.
And we do, if we need to, we have a plan on which ones of those signs to jettison if we're not able to afford to print them all. We have sort of a plan.
When you get those quotes, could you get them to Tara? I just for curiosity's sake, I'd like to know the prices on them, that was all.
For sure, absolutely. And I'm curious to know what they are too, because we really don't have a great, like they're a lot smaller than the ones that have been produced. So we're hoping the cost will be a lot less, but we don't know exactly what it's gonna be at.
And we're, of course, working with Lucy.
Yeah, she's been really great.
What's the board's pleasure?
Make a motion to support Parks and Recs with their signage.
I'll second that.
To purchase the signage,
Purchase the sign, yes.
Staying in budget.
Up to 1,000.
Okay. I have a motion, I have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
V-Train scoping study grant.
So.
Read that.
Like a month ago, maybe 2 weeks, a month ago, I came and asked for your blessing for Tom and Nate to apply for a V-Trans grant. The one that they were going to apply for isn't a good fit. We met with BCRC and decided a scoping study would be a better way to go. It can look at all of the issues we have on Route 7 and the recommendations made by BCRC and what it'll take to get to that point. There's a lot of things involved in it that we didn't plan for. So it is a match grant. It requires a 20% grant match. What is required for the grant is just a letter of support from the board saying you're willing to cover that. There may be some fundraising opportunity and things like that, but the board would have to commit to covering that.
And what is the 20%?
They're thinking about asking for about 50 grand.
Yeah, it's between 50 and 60, right? I think 60 is the maximum.
Around 10 grand. And we do have money in our capital project fund if we were to.
That's what
So
my next
our
question.
portion would not be 50.
No.
grand.
No.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I got confused by that too. I'm like, 50 grand is a bit steep.
No, they're asking for 50 grand
Right.
from the grant.
And the cost share is 20?
20%.
okay, yeah.
And we're gonna do everything in our power to raise that money.
Fundraise.
Yeah, we're really committed to trying to not have the town have to spend any money on this, but we do need your support ahead of time in order
Well, I
to
think
be
one of
able
the
to
big
do
things
that.
that we have had in the past is when we apply for grants and we don't know the amounts and then we get some backlash, justifiable
Yeah.
backlash that we're, a 20%, well, 20% of what? Right?
That's,
Now we have some concrete numbers. That's great. I think we can make a very educated decision on that.
I also really appreciate going back, right, and taking a second look or a third look and saying, there's actually another grant that we think we need to go through first. And I really appreciate that, so.
That was all Tara.
Well,
Tara, thank you.
I appreciate the ability, I appreciate you guys kind of working with BCRC too on this because we use them extensively, right? They're a vital part of what goes on in town.
Mhm.
Honestly. So I think that's great. And then, using their judgments, right? So it helps all the way around. Great. What's the board's pleasure?
we need a motion or just say,
Yeah, we need a motion.
Yeah, the blessing.
Motion to-
Okay.
move forward, to apply for the grant.
V-Trans scoping
Be
grant.
transcribing grant, yeah. I'll second that motion.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Thanks.
Thank you. Transfer station continued discussion and possible action.
This one should be relatively quick. Also, we had a couple of railing quotes that we received. So the first one we got was from JD Steel. He does the work here on the railings out front and out back. That was for $1,600. And the other one is from Ricky Harrington, who had originally given us a quote for a tire, but then adjusted it to $1,700.
I personally would rather go with JD still, just because I don't like the idea of someone coming in with a much higher amount and then going forward with the project, which was not authorized. Yes, and then it just, I just feel like that would reward that behavior, and I don't want to send out a message in the future that we don't have to approve.
Well, I think from my standpoint here, JV Steel did the railings here,
They did a really good job.
and they're gonna, I'm sure they're gonna match. I mean, I know it really doesn't matter, so to speak, because they're two different locations, but people that come here are gonna go to the transfer station and see the same things, and there's something to be said for consistency. Also, I'm not great on the other business practices, so.
Yes.
So what's the board's pleasure on that?
I move that we go ahead to accept the JD Still proposal. Have those go.
Second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I believe the only other conversation we needed to have was, now that board members have worked over there with Tom, do you want me to advertise for a transfer station second person, and what will that look like?
I think, so Terry and I discussed this a little bit yesterday. I visited the transfer station on Friday for day one of the compactor usage. Jamie was there on Saturday. I was there Saturday morning for a little while. I don't know what my observation on Saturday morning for the hour or so that I was there is it's impossible for one person on a Saturday to operate the compactors and run the acceptance of money and so on and so forth. It's just not.
It's too much.
It's too much for one person. It doesn't really matter who it is. Friday, Carl and I were there together. There's times on Friday that it would be a little bit difficult, but there's times when there was no traffic whatsoever.
Yeah.
For an extended period.
Yeah.
I did not make it there yesterday. I had planned to, but had family emergency. I don't know if anybody went over yesterday, but I'm going to assume that Wednesday was, which has been the case, was similar or less than the amount of people that came through on Friday. So, I think we definitely need a person there on Saturdays. I think there's also some things that popped up here. Just in the last, well, I guess they've been around and just reared their ugly head this last week, right? Some different things. When we were here doing evaluations on Tuesday. If you're doing a job of our employee performance evaluations. So I think there's a need, Tara and I discussed this a little bit. I think there's a need for a part-time person. Definitely at the transfer station and maybe it's from 10 to 2 on Friday. And maybe it's 10 to 2 on Wednesday when you're a little busier probably than normal. But there's also, we have our office personnel going around the town office right now, spraying weeds in the rocks and doing things that are outside of their scope of what they should be doing. They're trying to make it look really nice and keep it maintained and whatever. I don't think that's anyone who works inside this building at this time in the building itself. I don't think that's their responsibility.
So you're thinking we need somebody for light maintenance for 1 or 2 days here at the town office?
Yeah, and I'm thinking we could get a person part-time for 20 hours a week, 18 to 20 hours a week. They could split a little time up over at the transfer station to help Tom do some building maintenance around here, you know, type of thing.
So they would be our Saturday transfer
Saturday would be their, that's right.
and then Wednesday and Friday here for like maintenance.
And I also think that training that person on the compactors, because right now in the town, the way they're set up with our policies and stuff, which we're still in the process of finishing up, but the way it's heading is you have to have your tag all locked out, and you have to, you know, be familiar with what's going on. Right now, there's 4 of us. Okay, Joel, Tom, myself, and Jamie. I don't think there's anyone else.
But there's no one that can operate the transfer station fully.
Exactly, because I can't do the money right now.
I've never been shown the money either.
I think if we hire a part-time person that's mainly over there, I mean, we don't need somebody here every week, even it's just on occasion.
Mhm.
But I think, training them 6 hours a day or whatever, 18 to 20.
Yeah, 6 hours, maybe. I think Saturday, and I don't know when you were there.
There was only maybe a 45-minute break. Then it was like 1:30.
Hold on.
A little after 2. That was a longer break to take and go down and do any compacting. Because the way the compactors themselves, compacting of other items, let me be clear on that. Because the other compactors that we're using for our one stream recycling and then our household trash, depending on what is getting put in there is how often you have to actually operate those. Because if you're just dumping loose stuff in, you can only go up to the half level. If you're putting, say on the recycling side, if they've got a stack of boxes, one gentleman came in with a truck full of boxes, you could stack it right full as long as it's not packed. And then you just have to operate the system a few more times and it works its way down.
How many times did you run the compactors on Saturday?
The recycling one was 24, 25 times. And the trash, the household trash was about 13 times.
Okay, and I, like I said, I have no idea on Wednesdays how it goes because I wasn't there. No one has been able to get there on a Wednesday, unfortunately. Friday, we ran the recycling 7 times and the household trash 5.
So that would be a good day to do more compact with the loader.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tom having that second person is definitely essential because then we can keep him under the 30 hours also.
So I was gonna bring that up
What I wanted to mention was,
And then
if we turned around and had the other person do a half a day Saturday and do 1 day during the week.
Well, I think
then we could, the problem we're running with Tom is that he's, with doing his permitting paperwork, he's creeping over his 30 hours. And we need to try to pull that back.
So I think that Saturday is a day when that person needs to be there pretty much from 8 to 3:30.
Oh, the full day, okay.
8 to 3:30.
Because
Saturday's a bomb. Saturday, when I was there, there was a lot of people in there.
There was times when we'd get
And I think it's
12 cars at a time.
And I think it's important to keep traffic flow.
Or
Yeah.
vehicles.
Which, and I think Fridays, it could be, you could bring somebody in there at 9 o'clock. I don't think you have to be there when you open the door because you should have compacted everything when you walked away on Wednesday. You should have left empty.
Yes.
Right, okay?
You should be all set, ready to go on for the next day.
So, and I don't know, Terry, you had these hours up. Okay, so I think Friday should be like 9 to 3, maybe, because he closes at 3:50 anyway.
Yeah.
And I think Tom could finish up at the end of the day without a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
And I, like I said, I don't know Wednesdays. How many hours are we at there?
you can do like 5 hours. You got 15 hours right now.
So if we did a 5-hour thing on Wednesday where the person came in from 10 to even 2, or 4 hours, 10 to 2 or something, to leave a little bit of leeway maybe. So we're at under 20 hours or under.
Okay, and then we can discuss pay in person.
Right, I think, something we need to do. I just think it's, and then, you know, maybe it gives that person that extra hour to go to 20 hours of stopping here. Spray some weed killer around or whatever they have
Chairs
to do.
together.
Put chairs together. Yeah, our executive assistant Wednesday was putting.
Oh, she's putting chairs together.
I'll make her come put the chairs
So
together.
it's just, there's just a need for it.
Yeah. Couple other points that I wanted to bring up.
Go ahead.
So a lot of people are out there. I'm speaking to everybody out there in Facebook land, on Zoom land. I'm one guilty too. I have a larger receptacle and it gets heavy. Well, now you gotta be able to pick that up, or you're gonna be pulling the trash bags out of that to take and put it into the compactors. There's no more of the dumping over the chain, which a lot of times the chain wasn't up, which was a liability for the town. That's another reason why we've gone to these. So if you've got something that's very heavy, may want to downsize your container or adjust how you're going to load your container. That's all I'm trying to say. So it's easier for you to manhandle and they'd have a couple people that were going to put ramps up because they're elderly and they had a little hard time with the steps. I did tell them that we are in the process of getting railings, but so they were happy to hear that.
Excuse me.
98% of the feedback that I got was a positive feedback. Did have a couple people that obviously don't like change. So, but overall, I want to say thank you to everybody out there for your patience because we're still working out the things and, you know, continue to give us feedback. I mean, that's the only way we're going to be able to learn pros and cons on our projects, on anything around town. Thank you.
So I don't think we need to vote on that position tonight. I'll vote out as soon as we decide exactly, come up with a job description, which we can bring that back to July 10th.
No, design it just like the one that we had. Just less hours.
What I would appreciate, honestly, if somebody could help Tom Saturday for sure again, until Saturdays until we get a position in place. I definitely can't this week. I will be able to again after Tuesday of next week. Well, we're closed next Friday anyway.
Yeah.
I probably could go over there next Wednesday. But I would appreciate it if board members could help Tom. I'll do my best. I know. Everybody, you know, we all have stuff going on, but it's a really difficult thing. Plus, honestly, it gives you a chance to talk to a lot of different residents that otherwise you don't see and you don't talk to, and they have some concerns or some questions or whatever's going on in town, and it gives them that opportunity to ask that question. I had a lot of questions come out Friday and quite a few Saturday for the hour that I was there, honestly. Is that it for transfer?
Unless you have something else.
I do have a couple quick things. Traffic pattern. We've not come up with an ideal traffic pattern yet of what we're gonna do. When we come up with that, we will have lines and signage and everything over there. I'm not sure there is an ideal traffic pattern. We just have to come up with something that's gonna be functional and go with it. We're gonna put we need to put a couple of posts in, but I want to bring a topographical or the map back, Carl, the aerial. And I want to put some posts and some chains across to stop some traffic flow.
Yes, so direct traffic flow.
Direct to traffic flow. So there's a couple more things a few more things we're working on. But all in all, I think this Friday and Saturday were incredibly successful. And we won't know when we have to pull and do the hauls. We're gonna change the metal recycling into a different location. Just some different things, some minor changes. That's all I have. Okay. Telecommunications tower, substantial amendment, discussion and possible action.
So I apologize that it took so long to get to this. I didn't realize that they would join us tonight.
And that's okay, because what I want to say is, I'm not gonna restate a whole bunch of information that we had presented to us in the past. If there's some new things out there, but some of the new things are, the movement of the tower, the height didn't change. Some different things. So,
I think the reason that we put it on here so that the board could publicly state their direction. And because there was an amendment made, I believe if you still have the same stance, that you need to resubmit the letter that we did. That's just my understanding. If I'm not correct, please refer to Hannah.
That's fine.
yep, no, that's right, and I think, I think there's a little bit of, for me, there's a couple of different things here, right?
I needed to see where it was getting relocated.
So.
I couldn't open that.
Oh, you couldn't open that?
So,
Yeah, Hannah has the map. They moved it 30 feet.
There's just, it states the changes and then there's a sheet for our email. It's not.
Oh, Anna,
Yes.
their email isn't working.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm just wondering, because literally my town email just shut down like a phone call. No big deal though, we next printed everything out. Okay. I just didn't put that information.
So I have
In case we don't
a
print it out.
copy of CDs that show the exact detail if you need to.
Yes, just state your name.
Pat Robinson, President of Project Management with Rising Tide Towers.
Okay, if you want to bring those up, that'd be great, just so we can look at them real quick.
I did have one question from them that I couldn't find from previous document.
So there's that, and there's this one that shows the overhead. So basically the tower center was moved. So it was actually moved to the east 30 feet. So we're at 138 feet from the property line and 177 feet from the road.
Okay. What's the decibel rating on your generator goes off?
The decibel rating, I'd have to dig up.
Because I couldn't find that on any.
I could get you that information. I just don't know it right off.
And how loud does the generator operate? They usually, backup generator usually has a test cycle.
It does. Typically, we can set it to however we want, whether it runs monthly or weekly. But it does have a sound enclosure, so the decibel rating is very low. So if it were running, if you were on probably a road, you wouldn't hear it being that far away.
But the residents may hear it. That's what my worry was where, by the old location when I went up and visited the site from the residents, there was, I know with their dwelling higher than the site and the way the valley is, that would project up.
Yeah, and again, it does have a sound enclosure, so there's a padding inside the generator housing itself.
That could be something that could be programmed, as you said, so it was run at 10 to 12 once a month or however, right?
We could have it run whenever we want.
And
typically it's a monthly scheduled runtime. We'll on and run for 10 minutes. And again, we have the flexibility of programming that. But other than that, it would only come on and run during a power outage.
We have the batteries that will run for 6-7 hours and then the generator in addition.
Before the generator has to operate.
Yeah, correct. That's just an emergency situation. Power outage.
Guys, can I verify a question really quick? And I'm sorry again. I did go through what you sent and thank you for that. I still don't have internet actually even on my computer, not your issue. But so my understanding of what you said is that there are changes that the state considers substantial enough that it has to go through the process again.
If you want to file a motion to intervene, it's my understanding that you would have to resubmit that motion to intervene. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Based on the substantial amendment.
Correct.
Because it's
So then you're
question and is whether or not we're just going to resubmit the letter that we submitted before.
Basically, yes.
I believe by us trying to accommodate the setbacks that triggered change. So by us moving it so that there would be to meet the town setbacks, and the state's different, we were still in compliance with the state, but we wanted to also be in compliance with the town setbacks. So that move 30 feet to the east triggered the change, which is.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say, I thought that the changes that you've gone through triggered an additional, like, re-trigger the entire process to start again. Is that not correct?
There were changes prior to this, but then the substantial amendment was filed and it was.
Right.
I thought it was 43 feet to the east. I think that's what it said in the amendment. And I think that's what triggered it because it was moved.
Yeah, it says 43 feet to the east, right here.
Generator specs.
I didn't see decibel rating of that.
So now is everything in compliance with town ordinances? Requirements? That's what I'm
I'm not. I can't state that.
In the April meeting, the setbacks were, and so.
And I guess I would like to see that everything is in compliance. I would like to see appropriate setbacks. That's.
Yep, and that's what we just.
I just want to see it.
Mm-hmm. You want us to show you?
He's got the actual pages that show the.
Right, and I guess I want to see the town requirements as well. I appreciate showing me where it is now, but I also want to see, like, I don't have in front of me. What
So the town requires 110% of the height, so if you have a 120-foot building, 120% of the height is setback, or 100% of the height. And again, where we permit through the state, the town doesn't provide us the permit, correct? So we have to get it through the PUC. When we came here before, there was a question, if that tower fell like a tree, we wanted to make sure it did not fall outside of our landowner's yard. Now we're in compliance that although it will not fall like a tree and it's designed to buckle on itself and just fall, but in the event that it actually falls like a tree, 100% of that tower will be on the land, our landowner's land. And so that was why we made those changes. So it won't be on the road, it won't be on the abutter's property, it'll be 100% on the landowner that we have a lease with.
And this is all deviations from the original application to try to meet the town setbacks and concerns, correct?
And the abutters concerns that we heard about the height, so we've reduced the height substantially, we've changed the design substantially, all within, and we also have to work with our client that wants a certain level of cellular service, so we were able to check with them as well. And that service is still, but they're happy with the service that we provide from that as well at this point.
Tanya, I think you had.
Oh, thank you.
Can you just state your name?
Anya Hurt, the abutter. So the height is not in compliance with the town bylaws still. So the town bylaws say 20 feet above the tree canopy, and it's still well above the tree canopy. Our issue has not changed, even though they've moved it away from our property line. We still live on a dead end road. I'm in conversations with, I'm not going to say too much, with some people in town that are helping me with the safety end of this, because even if it doesn't fall on our property, there's not really any other way we can get out. We live in a very treacherous area with cliffs.
My understanding is.
I'm still speaking, I'm sorry, excuse me. There's no way to turn around, there's no way to go around the road if something were to catch fire or there's some sort of issue or there's maintenance or there's trucks delivering something or whatever, what have you. We have no other way to get in and out. And then the height issue is still the main problem because it affects our aesthetics, which is our entire issue we have, where it follows us on every section of our property. Wherever the kids play, it would be in the background. Wherever we set a trailer pit, it's right dead center of our view. So in the hot tub, staring at a cell tower, it goes up into the sky, and it's still with the height. Even with the design change, the paint color, the height, we've never said it's a cell tower. We have continually, repeatedly asked for it to be moved out of our main site line.
There's 49 other acres on the landowner's property, and he doesn't want to see it. He's putting it where he doesn't see it, but we carry the entire burden. I have photos too, if you're curious what it looks like now at the new height.
So are you, Scott, Connie, are you good? Tom, you're all set? So the tower, if it were to shear at the ground level, cannot block any traveled portion of any driveway, road, or trail or anything to that effect. Is that correct? That's correct. It is well short of Crow Hill Road if it were to shear at the base.
Within, 50 feet plus from Crow Hill. Yeah, it's.
So an emergency vehicle would have no problem passing that tower if it were completely flat on the ground.
Same as today.
The tower height is gonna be 120 feet. Center line, tower center is 177 feet away from Crow Hill Road.
Okay.
And then we're building a little driveway too, so any maintenance on that tower are gonna pull off Crow Hill Road.
Don't you have a parking area in there too?
Correct.
So if you had trucks working on things that had to bring supplies in or whatever, they're gonna be in that contained area?
That is correct.
Okay.
Once the tower is built, there'd be very minimal traffic, if any at all, to that stuff. And to answer my question, there's national standards and rules, and obviously we always want to be within the town's rules. But when we made this substantial design, and I'm repeating myself from the April meeting, we made the design to be at the level of the height with the existing tower in town. So it was our understanding that if there's a 120-foot tower existing in this town, it must have been permitted and accepted at some point. We're not sure when, we didn't build it, we have nothing to do with it. So we just tried to be within the standards that were already accepted at some point by someone.
That makes, I totally hear that. And that is the standard not, is the standard a certain like footage? Or is it like within a certain range from the tree canopy? Because if that's the case, then I could see, you know what I'm saying? Like if there's a 120-foot tower somewhere else in town, but it's no higher than 20 feet above the tree canopy, then it might make sense there. I'm asking a question.
Yeah, no, most of the trees all over the town are relatively the same height. I mean, there's not 110-foot trees one side and 60-foot trees. Maple and pine trees, if you will, and so the town's ordinance on height is usually based on building structures, and I don't believe there's a telecommunication ordinance. And the Telecommunication Act kind of allows companies to put it at a height where it actually provides service. So when you're reducing the height so much that it's only 20 feet above the tree canopy, it doesn't provide the service, and it doesn't cover the things in town that the provider is really trying to provide for the state. So this is again driven by the state of Vermont, has identified this as an area of concern for the first responder network that they're building throughout the state. And they've had to sign off on the coverage, and we've reduced the height such that they'll still sign off and we can still build it.
Who had to sign off, the state or our first responder here?
AT&T FirstNet was awarded the contract from the state of Vermont to build out the network. So we have to, if we build out a tower that's not tall enough, then it's essentially not going to provide the service that's going to cover the arteries that they're looking to cover that doesn't have.
So we work directly with AT&T's engineering, the RAN team, radio access engineering. And they typically they'll show us the area that they're trying to cover. We'll give them a location, they propagate it, but there are some that show the coverage from that particular location. So in this case, where originally we were going to build at 190 feet, I mean, it showed really good propagation throughout the town, throughout the whole valley.
Much better, really. I mean,
and in this case where we reduced the height to 120 feet. So basically the center line of the antennas are actually going to be at 116 feet just because the tip of the antenna cannot exceed the top of the tower anyways. So that would actually be the center line. So we had to have them rerun the propagation. The RAN team had to actually sign off with us, basically saying that it's still approved to run at this site. So it's a process that we have to follow. So we don't make the decisions on how the propagation looks. It's really up to the engineering team with AT&T in this case.
Question.
Just state your name, please.
Jesse Hart, I'm also the abutter. I just want to clarify with the board that the reason they have to make it this height is because the landowner, Bruce McDonald, doesn't want to move it anywhere where he can see it himself. And that's the only reason it needs to be this tall. And it has to go up with this incredible topography. For those of you who have actually visited the property, know it's very unique. So I just want to make sure that that's made clear.
Yeah, and again, I'm repeating myself. We looked at a dozen sites or so in this town. We had fully permitted 190-foot tower. We had a landlord that changed his mind, so that wasn't an issue. It was in a part of town that was permitted, was accepted. We had to kind of go back to the drawing board. But when we approach a landowner and they have an area of their land that they want to build it, we certainly don't argue with that if it works to our spec. So we try to minimize the footprint that we take up. We don't typically put it in the middle of someone's land unless they want it there or unless that's the height that we're desiring. But in this case, there was really no discussions about whether he wanted to see it or not. He just preferred it in a location that he wasn't using, that it made the most sense for him. I mean, that was really what usually dictates it.
Hey,
You said you had explored other sites. So was this property owner the first that, well, after the one that said change your mind? Was this the only other respondent that was interested?
Many others.
Yeah, no, I mean.
But this was the secondary site that worked the best for you after the initial one that fell through?
We've explored several options. I mean, we called the Hearts before we called this gentleman. They didn't respond until after we were under contract with this gentleman. So unfortunately, we just didn't have an opportunity to have the conversation.
That's
with
your
the
say, I
Hearts.
just don't want you to take that as fact, because it's
That we called you?
So.
not.
We're not gonna argue.
But
I
I can't let lies be told on this thing.
Tanya?
That's not.
Okay, you're done right there.
It's certainly.
Oh, someone else is speaking.
It's the back and forth, I don't want to hear that, sorry.
I'm gonna stop right here. This conversation. My feeling on this whole process right now is, and I'm gonna say what my feeling is on this. I think that the state of Vermont makes the final decision here anyway. I think that the select board, I don't think we should send a letter of opposition, so to speak, about this. I think we should send a letter to the state of Vermont that says if the state of Vermont deems this project to be for the good of the town of Pownell residents and for the first responders that are going to be using this, and that's what it's built for. I think that's the letter that we should send if they approve the project. They're the final say anyway, on this whole entire deal. I don't feel comfortable now sending a letter of opposition, honestly, about this, the more I thought about it. And that's kind of where I stand. I'm not exactly positive on how to word that letter. I'm not saying that we send a letter of support for the project either. I think we leave it up to the state. If they feel that it's the best thing for the good of the town and they deem it that way, then that's the project.
Are we required to send a letter at all? At this point?
No.
You don't have to. So then there's the other option. of
There's the other
sending
option. That's true. That's totally true.
I kind of feel like what I'm hearing from the Hearts and this is kind of a mistake. The landowner, I don't know the person whose land this tower is being built on. I get it. I haven't heard from that person. I do understand what you're saying, right? That it's very frustrating if someone has property and whether and this person potentially may not be there most of the time. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't talked to that person, but if that were the case, and they've decided to situate a tower on their property in such a way that they are going to reap the benefit of rent from it, a financial benefit, but someone else is stuck with looking at it, I completely hear the frustration of that. I would be very frustrated by that as well. And I also understand the need to make sure that we have emergency services that can respond. I also understand the interest here of Vermont regulations as well. And so I feel like that we have competing interests here. And one of them feels, I'll just say from my perspective too, grossly unfair for someone else to have benefit of it, but they don't even have to look at the tower. That doesn't go to whether or not it's necessary or whether or not it's what the state permits. And I think this is a really frustrating situation. And I wish there were a way to work around this so that we didn't have homeowners and people who own land who are looking at this tower that someone else is benefiting from but doesn't have to see it. So I feel like that there's a fundamental unfairness to that. I think most people just sort of like, yeah, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't mean that there's a legal response to it that prevents it.
Could I quickly share the photos I have of where it would be? Since they moved it, we had to fly a drone up because they won't do another balloon test. So we flew a drone from the coordinates up to the height that they said, and we just marked where it would be. So that's something I can share with the board.
We did provide engineered photo sims at the last meeting by professional. So
I don't.
just so you know.
None of those are taken from the property itself. It's.
But I guess I have visited, and I don't know what else has. So I do hear what you're saying. I can see that. And like I said, I think it feels fundamentally unfair. And I also don't know that there's a legal response to it.
Well, that's still beyond the height requirement. And there's no legal precedent that says just because there was another tower that was approved by a different board requires you to approve this one. So it still doesn't, it still violates the town telecom zoning of the height. So that if the board is going to ignore their own zoning, then I worry about future projects that then use that as precedent for this board.
My problem with the tree height is which tree do you measure?
It's not a single tree, it's a canopy.
It's just, right, so where do you measure?
You have to come to my house. Can I show you the photos?
Sure, you can.
Okay.
Not that my grandfather owned that property years ago, so whatever.
It looks much different because we cleared a bunch
I'm
of trees.
sure that.
I know Brian hasn't been there either, so
I know, and I apologize.
No, that's okay. So this is the, right next to the hot tub, it would be. This is where I do all of our cooking because we are home people and family. We work from home, so I'm at the kitchen island 3 times a day. And this is my main window and view, and this is out that window and where that tower
Can you go
would be
back to
and the
that?
height. Yes.
Where's the tower in that picture?
Well, there isn't a tower in this picture.
Oh, okay.
But you can see the pine tree that it's next to.
That's
I'm just trying to show you that's the window that we're now looking out of. Again, the red line is where it would be. And this is just from different viewpoints, and I'm trying to explain to you, it's not far away, it's not out one window, it's inescapable. I know you don't understand because you don't live there, and I get that, but it follows us everywhere we walk around the property, every single place, unless I'm on the north shady side of my house on the slope.
The view of, from our house, we walk daily down this Pro Hill Road, and now there's a compound. We're passing a barbed wire fence. That kind of ruins the magic of Pownell for us.
I ain't gonna see it from whatever.
Okay. Yeah, you've been.
It's a 20-foot wide utility road. It's not a small road.
And you, can I ask you a question? Is it possible, could you, so, right, I realize there's a portion beneath the tower, you talked about trucks being able to come in and out, and there is a fence around it. Great, just great.
And then there's a 170-foot tree buffer.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
And can there be a tree buffer so that that isn't visible?
100%, you will not see our compound from the road. And I
It's
also
not,
want
it's not a straight access road if you look at it.
We've made the road specifically so that we don't clear cut it right up into the opening. We're building a site in this right now.
Would a buffer be created so that you can't necessarily see it from their house,
Well,
because you could.
There is a natural tree buffer currently, but we've obviously taken the hard concerns and tried very hard to make everyone happy here. But we looked at dozens of sites, we find a landowner that likes it and then walks us through the woods to a place where he wants it to be. At that point, we're not walking to all the neighbors' house and understanding the neighbor's view, because there's hundreds of acres, hundreds of forests. And when we hear the concerns, we make dramatic changes to try to alleviate all the concerns. And at this point, I don't feel like, they're not alleviated, but we certainly have taken this into consideration. And we're not trying to ruin anyone's view or anyone's livelihood or lives by being.
I'm gonna ask the whole question, Todd, and I'm not sure which one of you, Pat, right?
Yes.
I'm not sure which one of you could answer this, but I'm gonna ask it to you because you had a concern about the generator. Is there, if this project was permitted by the state of Vermont, could the Hearts be involved in saying what time they would, like, if the generator, whether they can hear it or not? Right, and I'm not gonna say they can, not gonna say they can't, I don't know, right, because obviously you won't know that until it's there. Is there a possibility that they could be involved in saying what time that generator runs?
Absolutely, yeah, we could absolutely work with that.
That is very low on our priority.
I understand that, I understand that, but you know what, Jamie brought that up, and to me, that is a genuine concern, whether or not you can hear the generator. I totally understand.
Part of it.
I work with emergency generators, so I know how loud they are, and I just, after visiting your house and looking at the dynamics of the topographic, I
have
from experience, I know.
But I just wanted to make that clear that,
Yeah, maybe something would be like, whatever the preference is, it would probably noon time for 10 minutes type of thing, it wouldn't be midnight.
exactly, I just want to make sure that that's out there. I figured it was, but what's the board's, I heard Jeannie say that we don't have to send a letter at all in opposition or go for
I think the state has our former letter. It's not like it disappears. I don't know that we have to send a letter saying that the state of Helena determines this is important. That feels a little redundant to me.
So are we?
Well, it still doesn't meet our town ordinance.
It still doesn't meet our town ordinance,
That's-
but you said,
Yeah, and that's the same all over the state, because there's not a lot of ordinances that allow 190 foot, 250 foot towers, but that's required.
I'm comfortable leaving it where it's at. We've already sent a letter. They know what our feelings were.
They actually, excuse me, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
So because the case is restarted, we actually need to have the town's opinion on the case to get anywhere. So if the town could say, continue to uphold their bylaws, that would really help us. There's no cases that have been successful contested tower cases without the town's support. So while it seems like you don't need to do anything, for us, it's immensely helpful to have the town on board saying that this doesn't uphold our bylaws, we stand by our bylaws.
And just the last letter might have been written without all of the facts as well, so just, we want to make sure we're here to make sure that you guys understand the height of the land didn't change, the design isn't going to fall on the road, it's not going to block emergency services, and we're here for full transparency. I mean, we're not happy that the Hearts are upset about the project, but again, we've exhausted dozens of locations. So we're here, we've found a willing landlord, and I mean, there's towers all over this state that far exceed the 120 feet. And there's not a lot of towns that have great ordinances, and the National Telecommunication Act provides for the state to allow this because it's the height is needed for the service, unfortunately.
I'm comfortable letting the state make this decision personally. And then
The state's going to make it, it's not the way we were comfortable with it.
yeah, the state commission.
Because I am sensitive to the idea that, like, Yeah, I understand that maybe the bylaws sort of haven't caught up with the sort of these newer, bigger towers or, whatever the situation is. But yeah, I do kind of have a little bit of a problem with the idea that sort of, yeah, if there's a bylaw in place, that's what we should follow, or it should get changed. But I think like we can't decide when we're gonna follow laws and when we aren't, sort of on a case by case basis, I guess. So yeah, like I don't know what the right answer is, and like obviously there's a lot of things to consider, but like whatever ends up happening, I think should match up with what is theoretically allowed here, I guess. Yeah.
From like the limited research that I have done, the state can choose to override the town bylaws. So it wouldn't hurt anything if you submitted a letter just saying this one thing still does not comply with our bylaws. The state can still choose to override it. It's not hurting it if you do that. Obviously, that's totally up to you guys. It's not.
But that's kind of where I'm leading is.
It's just an option.
It's following our own town statutes. We represent all taxpayers in the town. And I just feel that that's how we should move. That's how we should move forward myself. My own opinion of the situation.
Yeah, it's still in violation of the zoning bylaws. I mean, I appreciate the steps that they've taken to try to, for remediation, but it's still in violation of our zoning bylaws. Whether the bylaws need to be changed or not going forward is a separate discussion. But as it currently stands, it is still in violation. No, the community, the state's gonna make the decision they're gonna make.
Right.
But I'm comfortable stating a letter that, to our zoning bylaws, this is still in violation.
I'm fine with that as well. If we're gonna send this letter to the state, then I don't know that we can send the letter in good conscience without saying.
To notify them that they are in violation.
Yeah.
And obviously when you're coming down Route 7 and you see that huge 120-foot tower, there's a whole bunch of people that can see it and they're not in here complaining about it. So
I wasn't on the board at the time of that.
I get you, but we're just trying to be,
And I do agree
good about this.
I understand.
Maybe we need to revisit our bylaws.
Well,
They are where they are.
It's nothing against you guys. I appreciate that you guys have taken the concerns and you've adjusted your plans to the state that you have. I'm just representing the town, and I voted on support of those bylaws at the time since I've been on this board, and I feel I have to stand by that.
Totally understand. And we did have many conversations with the state about the height, and they seem to be okay with the 120-foot height. It was them that would do it.
And if the state is, then that's just persuasion, or it's.
I mean, we've all known right from the beginning of this process that regardless what we vote, the state's gonna make the ultimate decision.
Correct.
I mean, I appreciate the good faith effort on your company's part to try to come up with some changes. But for me, like I'm all in favor of cell phone coverage, and I understand the trouble that you guys would have to go through as a company to find a willing landowner and then having to work within that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the original discussion during that particular zoning bylaw was to encourage more rooftop steeple type cell phone antennas that would be hidden. That was the entire, intention of it.
Yeah.
More hidden. Now I get it. That's not applicable in every town and certainly not really an option in our town.
It really comes down to the terrain. The terrain dictates how.
Yeah, because at that point.
It's designed. And
yeah, because you got the curl of the valley. I mean, I completely understand that.
Was dictated the specific one.
Yeah,
and I totally understand all that.
Existing service versus the needed service. So if it's reduced, you guys will probably the service you have today is going to be the service you have in the future. That's the state of Vermont is trying to improve your service. Route 7 is very busy. If it's reduced, the service is not.
Well, like I said, I think the zoning bylaws, our local zoning bylaws need to be readdressed. But it's also, I also understand that when it was crafted, cell phones were more of a luxury item. They were not a necessity. First responders were not using them for primary communication like they do now. So I understand all the circumstances behind it. But I do agree with Jamie that for our zoning bylaws, And to the landowner's concern, like if we're going to violate one law, then what's the point of having them at all?
And that's the Telecommunication Act, the federal government's kind of put.
And precisely,
Yeah.
state and federal law trump local municipality. And that's fine. And then that's the course.
decision that
And
we
that
have.
is,
All right,
that's
let's,
the process.
we're going down the same rabbit hole here. Time and time again, what's the board's pleasure?
Make a motion that we send a letter stating that we oppose it per the violation of our bylaws.
I'll second that.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any more discussion? The letter's clearly gonna state that the opposition is just because it violates our bylaw.
Right.
Yep.
Our town ordinance bylaw.
Well,
Of the height.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The height
Yep.
bylaw.
Yep.
Right, is that, just so we're clear?
Yeah.
Because this
Yes.
has been a pretty contentious thing.
Explain that again to Jamie, I didn't quite hear that. But the motion is that we oppose.
No, we're gonna send a letter of opposition
Okay, yes.
Send a letter of opposition.
because it violates our zoning bylaw height
Correct.
for cell towers.
But that's it.
Okay, but that's it.
Right, is that right?
Yes.
You're gonna second that, Ryan?
I did.
Is everybody clear on that motion?
Yep.
No?
Clear.
Okay. All right, I'm fine with that. No more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, fellas.
The people didn't miss all that, did they?
No, I've been asking on chat.
Bennington County Sheriff Department contract discussion and possible action.
So you all saw the contract. It's the same as it was last year, just an increase in the hourly rate, which we planned for and budgeted for. Questions?
I saw everything, I just did not get time to do the math. The increased rate. Tara, did it allow for the same hourly coverage that we have now, or could we increase the hours?
Nope, same hourly coverage because the hourly rate increase, we had to keep the hours.
That's what I thought. Mhm. Okay.
But we did we budgeted the exact amount. And
Okay.
I
thought that, but I
rate
just-
staying under that 30 hours a week, I think it was, so that we don't go over budget. That's been working really.
They've been
well.
working.
Aye.
Do we all have to sign that, Tara?
We should.
Just him.
Oh, just that?
I'm the important one, Charlie. I'm just kidding. That is so not.
That's gonna get some comments.
I had to break the ice.
We're all behind.
I had to break the ice from the
So the
last.
bullets fly, we're all behind you.
I can hear the keyboards now.
Yeah, right, yeah. No, I just, because of the last agenda item, I just had to. do that. That's all. Okay.
And we can't
So I apologize.
Yes.
We cannot forget this giant stuff.
Hey, I didn't last time.
We'll do it again.
I didn't last time, did I?
I know.
What's
You're
that?
the only one that remembers.
Conservation Commission letter of interest, discussion and possible action.
So, a few weeks ago, June 3rd, I received a letter of interest
Excuse me,
from
thank you.
Leonard Cody. He said he would like to express my interest for the open position and would like to be considered to fill the seat. It's advertised for 4 weeks. And, like today, I got another letter from Ashley Farrington, but it was past the cutoff date and Leonard had his in like weeks ago, so But I did tell her I would mention that she sent in a letter of interest, because she would be great for the board, but
But there's only one open.
there's only one opening right now, right? Yeah.
I mean, I think I would like to have our conservation commission have every seat filled. That sounds great to me. Fine with Mr. Cody. It'd be great though, like there was like those bare bone letters I think I've read that we've gotten about an interest in any commission. So just like with everyone else, if he could come address the select board, I would just like to hear from him.
Okay.
Before we vote for that. I just don't, like, we have sort of gotten into this where we're like having people come and talk with us. Cause I wanna know, if you wanna be on the commission, super good, but why?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Okay.
No, you're right. You brought that up before and I think that's a great idea.
When do you want to do it, Mike?
July 10th.
I was thinking, yeah, because, well, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, but I wanted to do your personnel evaluation for zoning administrator on the 10th before the regular meeting.
Yeah.
So if we could do both of those.
We could do one at 5:30 and one at 5:45.
Yes.
How's that?
Perfect.
Do Leonard at 5:30 and do me at 5:45?
Yep.
Okay.
You think we only need 15 minutes?
Yeah.
For who?
For you.
Hey, if you need more than that, Carl, the back I got pounding, right? It's either a yay or nay. I'm gonna cross that off, because we just did that. Sorry.
Yes.
Wage increases for all employees and elected officials, discussion and possible action.
So Hannah sent you all the spreadsheet, the 5% increases. We already did highway, wastewater was taken care of. So, and Hannah's was done after she finished school. So it's just like the main office staff that's on salary and some of our part-time people. And that includes our elected officials, town clerk and treasurer. So it's just a 5% increase added to their salary or hourly rate now.
Which are budgeted.
And then they're
increases.
budgeted accordingly, yeah.
Just officially. It starts on
July 1.
Tuesday. Yep. What's your pleasure?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say,
You were third.
I think we've all looked at it. I don't have any questions or discussions.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we raise the pay by 5% on.
I would go with the budgeted amount.
With the budgeted amount, there we go.
I second that motion.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We kind of jumped ahead and did 17 already, so we're on 18. Town attorney policy review.
So I've got, should have like 4 different policies that everyone got. The first one is just the original policy. And the reason I brought this up to begin with is because that policy kind of made me nuts because it has an internal contradiction. And that's the problem is that like clause 3 says prior to contacting the town's attorney, staff, board members, elected officials must first seek permission from the select board chair and one other board member. And then it has a clause that follows and says one-on-one communication between select board members and the town's attorney by email or otherwise is prohibited. So either there is a process through which select board members or elected officials can talk to the town attorney, or there is no process in their way. You know what I'm saying? Just like these two things cancel each other out. So using this language, I drafted 3 alternatives. The first one just ends with the third clause. And that is prior to contacting the town's attorney, staff, board members, elected officials must first seek permission from the select board chair and one other board member. So that's one option we could go with. Another option would be, say, prior to contacting the town's attorney, staff, board members, elected officials must first seek permission from the select board chair and the select board vice chair. Second alternative. Third alternative is prior to contacting the town's attorney, staff, board members, elected officials must first seek permission from the select board chair and select board vice chair. If the select board vice chair is unavailable, then permission may be obtained from the select board chair and one other board member. So I actually personally don't care which of the 3 other folks want, but this first, the policy as written, it really doesn't offer us with any clear guidance on how someone can reach out to the town attorney because the last 2 clauses cancel each other out.
Well, why don't we just do it by the vote of the board?
I like, because sometimes you can't have both do it.
I understand that, but
I like their third one better than all of the, that's the one where it was the chair, vice chair, and if the vice chair wasn't available, then another board member. The only thing I like there that I see a problem, and it's a really minor one, if it was the chair and or vice chair were not available. So that if I wasn't available and Jamie needed to contact the attorney or somebody else came, you know, it could be Carl and Jamie or you. I just.
Perfect.
You know, life goes on, right? We don't know, and if we do that.
That's great. I think that solves the issue. It cleans it up.
Yep.
Because we don't always have time to get to the next meeting. That, and I agree, that's my concern, is that we have to have a conversation.
I just don't want to fall into a position where we were a year or two back.
I don't think we are with that. Right there.
Okay, I understand that, but I also want to make sure that there is a process where it is communicated back to the rest of the board exactly what is communicated between that person and the lawyer within a reasonable amount of time.
Well, the lawyer's gonna do that.
Simple part is in writing to the lawyer. You can add to it, you know, versus, you know, email or, but that, and that way it can be shared to, your response can be shared to Tara, who could in turn share it to the rest of the board without breaking open meeting.
Respond back to the rest of the board.
90% of the time, it's gonna go through Tara anyway.
Right.
Right. So when someone has a question for the lawyer, they're gonna bring the question to Tara. Whoever it is, they're gonna bring the question to Tara. She's gonna be the contact person to the lawyer, and she's gonna notify the rest of the board. I know exactly what you're saying, and I know what Carl's saying, but I think that's already taken care of here every time.
This policy just contemplates an instance, and I do not know what that would be. I haven't seen it yet. We're like, someone on the select board, we need to be able to have a conversation with the town attorney quickly and efficiently and a way to get there. Like, the idea of hamstringing a select board such that we can't have a conversation outside of following multiple steps. Sometimes decisions need to be made rapidly, and I get that you want the information communicated back, and you would most likely be that other person. But if we can have that communicated quickly, I just can't.
So the protection here, as far as I'm concerned, I think about this, Carl, the protection here, right? So all you're doing is you're communicating with the lawyer. Okay, it's an avenue to communicate with the lawyer. The 2 or 3 or however many people that are communicating with the lawyer, they can't make a decision, but the board is going to make that decision.
I understand, but I'm talking about those other issues that we were having because a member was communicating and there was issues.
But this takes care of that.
Yeah.
And I didn't like, you know, if the vice chair wasn't available, well, what if I'm not available? I'm the chair right now.
Right.
I just wanted I want to make sure that it can happen.
Yes.
Right? Because there's 3 other board members besides the chair.
I understand that.
So
you understand my concerns.
I do, and I think he's taken care of.
I think it prevents abuse,
legal fees.
and I think because if it were abused in the past, that should not prohibit us from having reasonable, rational communication between board members and attorney.
So I think you're gonna bring that back to us.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we should have it on July 10th, and we should be able to ratify that, because I think everybody's
I will do
comfortable with that.
exactly what you've asked for.
Should be really
I got the
quick.
magical.
Honestly, our intent was what you, if you, your first suggestion, that was our intent.
Got it.
By what we did.
Proposed executive session for personnel. Do we need that tonight?
No.
I think without other,
I think we're good.
I think we're all taken care of. So I don't think we need the executive. Public comment, Hannah. No hands?
Body else.
Wow. I just really appreciate you guys. This is a long meeting with a lot of difficult things, and you guys are just really heroes for really giving everyone a chance to speak and really carefully considering all this stuff. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Hearing no other public comment.
It's nice to have people actually show up.
Thank you for being here.
Hearing no public comment, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, I figured I couldn't